We're just being extra.
Okay, we're finally getting it started. All right. If you guys are new or welcome back, welcome to the Just Extra podcast with Jackie and Erica. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erica. And we have a guest. I'm so excited. Welcome, Joycey.
Hi.
What's up, y'all?
No, it's okay. Some of you guys, this is Joycey. This is our new acquaintance, and she's also a sex coach. But let's talk about how we met, because I was just like, oh, you're interesting. So we met at a mutual friend's house. It was a sleepover. First off, I haven't done a sleepover in forever. Actually, I don't even think I was allowed to do sleepovers growing up. So we're meeting all these new people, and we're all introducing ourselves like AA style, like, hi, my name is Jackie. Hi, Jackie. And we're meeting Joycey, and we're talking about our occupations. And she just talked about, oh, I am a certified sex coach. So we're like,
Gotta get her on the pod.
Exactly. So, hey, Miss Joycey, you want to introduce yourself and, tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes. So I technically can't say I'm a certified sex coach until I get my certification in May, but I am on track to becoming a certified somatic sex and relationship coach. But currently, right now, I'm a consultant. I work at a tech firm. My way out. Anyway, don't matter. I'm originally from Colorado, born and raised Colorado. I moved to Houston at the end of 2022. And it was actually through this consulting firm that I met a friend, made some new friends, and then here we are. So really excited to be here. I'm really excited to talk about sex coaching and somatica and just a little bit about my journey.
Okay, speaking of somatica, can you tell us what exactly that is?
Yes. So I guess for more context, sex coaching itself is more just about somebody who guides and educates people about issues related to sex, intimacy, and relationships. And it's a little different from sex therapy because sex therapists spend a little bit more time focusing on past traumas, focusing on dysfunctions. Sex coaching is a little bit more empowering. Somatica method specifically is a mix of talk-based coaching and experiential practices to help expand like skills and beliefs around intimacy. So it's the belief that it takes a little bit more than like traditional talk-based sort of conversations and like a cognitive approach in order to like really understand and help support people through things. It takes more of like an experiential, like hands-on approach. And so when I say hands-on, we are actively taking clients through different practices. We'll take them through. So like, for instance, if somebody is having trouble setting boundaries, we will practice setting boundaries with like an actual situation, and they'll practice speaking out the boundary, and we'll practice refining the way that they approach it so that they can like actually know how to do things when it comes to like real life. So I like the mix. It's a mix of the two, and I think it's really important and really, really, really impactful.
I agree. It's interesting. I actually looked up the definition of somatic because I'm like, somatic, just the word somatic, and it says like relating to the body, especially distinct from the mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I really want to know how this differs. So thank you for doing that. How did you find yourself in this role?
Yes, my journey to sex coaching has been a very interesting one. Joycey knew who she was from a very young age. Okay. I was always drawn to sex. I was never really afraid of the conversation of sex. I didn't actually start having sex until college. But I don't know, like I was always just really comfortable with the conversation. My degree was in human development family studies. So I've always been somebody who was a student of psychology, somebody who was really interested in the way that humans are and why we are the way we are. And I remember after I graduated, I had recently quit my job. I was working in insurance, and I was like, can I cuss?
I curse all the time, girl.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just want to make sure.
I am the resident cusser, okay?
I remember I was working in insurance and I was like, fuck this shit. I hate it here. So I quit my job. And a couple months later, I was watching this show called Sex, Love, and Goop. And it had sex therapists, sex coaches. And I was like, yo, this is a job. Ever since then, I was like obsessed. I went and found one of the institutions that one of the coaches had gone through, and it was a somatic institute. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was one of the like few accredited certification programs that you could go through to get sex coaching certified in sex coaching. And so I was plotting on it for a couple years, and then I was finally like, you know what, this is my passion. Let me just go ahead and do it. So I'm really glad I'm here. It feels very fitting for who I am.
I actually watched the show, Sex, Love,
Did
and Goop,
you?
and I thought it was so interesting. But like, I love like Shan Booty and like been following her, and like, you know, I'm also just, you know, a sexual individual myself. So when I saw that come across like the Netflix algorithm, I said, yeah, let's click play. There were so many different scenarios in that show where like different people, you follow different people's journeys, and you saw the different kinds of like exercises that they would go through with folk, that I thought was so interesting. I'm like, did you have a favorite like episode or like exercise that you want to talk about?
Yes, I really am obsessed with Jaya. She is the one who had coined the 5 erotic blueprints. And so when she was taking couples through understanding, I think it was the Black couple in that in that series. And she was taking them through their erotic blueprints and helping them understand where they like fell along those. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And so watching their journey, especially the husband's journey, and understanding that sex is not so limited to what he thought it meant to be growing up, like that was such a beautiful journey to watch. Yeah.
So just a little bit of background. I think, and again, I might be a little bit off, go watch it on Netflix, but like he basically, you know, was someone who thought about like sex as like, you know, the actual physical, I don't know, help me out, Joycey, but like the actual like physical like touch about it, the penetration, like he was very just like the traditional way that I think people think about sex versus like there's so many other like, I don't know, styles that existed. And when he actually got to explore them, he was more like, I don't know, turned on by some of the other styles that didn't actually, like, it wasn't like the visual, like the way that we traditionally think about. I don't know. Yes, their episode, well, it was like the first one, I feel like it drew me all the way in. So yeah, I also just, I know, little side note, I also just liked the episode where they followed the woman's like trauma, where she, like, it was like a reenactment of like, you know, where her trauma kind of like came from, and like just the stories of like her mom and her mother's mother, right? Like all the things. And you kind of really understood like just how deep, you know, things can go. Shout out to my mother. You already know she was on the podcast. So, you know, it really is a generational trauma. It's real.
It is,
okay.
honey. It go deeper than you know, okay? That episode, okay, I think I remember that episode. I think the exercise that spoke out to me was the breathing. I think they were just like breathing together. A lot of that is like tantric too, like tantric practices. I don't know. There's just so many ways to connect without penetration. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, like you said, like a lot of guys just think it's just an act. And we've been fucking, you know, you're not happy. You don't feel close to me. We fuck every day. But there are layers, and I'm so happy that it opened up a lot more people to other practices. So thank you for talking about that, because now I got to finish the series. I'm a Dr. Ruth girl. I used to grow up watching her. So freaky old lady. I love her.
Since we're talking about lived experiences, I mean, can you, I guess, maybe share what you might know about like how someone's like lived experience plays a part in how they really view sex or dating and intimacy?
Yeah, I think someone's lived experience has like a really big impact because if you think about it, like, say if you were in a relationship with somebody they and you were vulnerable about something and you shared really like something really personal with them and you get in an argument and they throw it back in your face. Well, you're probably not going to be open to being vulnerable in your next relationship because you're afraid of somebody using that and weaponizing that against you. Say you've been in relationships in the past where somebody prioritized their pleasure over your own, and moving forward, you're not as open to having sex, you're not as open to wanting to be intimate with somebody because you don't think that they're going to cater to your needs. So I think a lot of our lived experiences impact the ways that we show up. And I don't think we realize it in real time. Like, we tend to sweep things under the rug and be like, well, fuck them, whatever, it is what it is. But that really does, like, your body keeps score. You remember that. And so when you kind of keep going without really healing from it or reflecting from it, it continues to show up cyclically. And yeah, it's really unfortunate the way that our experiences like kind of accumulate in ways that can really create negative cycles.
Girl, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the first sex astrology episode of ours and the second one, but that's literally my life. Like,
Mm,
literally letting somebody, and the thing is, this is just what I was naturally taught. Like, the guy leads the relationship and he kind of leads the intimacy path. And when you are dealing with somebody who doesn't really care about how you feel, that's how it led to my personal repulsion. Because I'll go a long time without having sex
yeah.
instantly and not care about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so frustrating because it's like you meet these people and you open up and you're maneuvering as best as you can. But when you don't necessarily, like you said, you don't necessarily always have a bunch of healthy relationships and things that you can turn to as representation to know and understand the way that you're meant to be treated and know and understand like ways that you might be taken advantage of or manipulated or, whatever. Like, if you don't necessarily have those examples around you, you don't always really know what you're like dealing with until it's all said and done. You're like, damn, I really went through the trenches and I didn't have to go through that, or like I didn't know the red flags when they're coming up.
So I want to ask about let's move this a little different. What are some common misconceptions about sex or sexuality that you see amongst millennials in the Black community?
This one's a really interesting question. Um, it kind of takes me back to that Sex Living Goop episode where that guy was talking about how like sex is supposed to look this way, and I experienced it a different way, and like now my mind's blown, and like now I'm so curious. I think a big misconception is how we think sex is supposed to look. We have porn, we have media. Men are like, I'm supposed to be the dominant one. Women are supposed to be the submissive. I want a good girl that calls me daddy, that I could smack her ass and smack her around. Like, you have these sort of perceptions. And I think, especially in the Black community, sometimes it's kind of aggressive and like very, it leans a lot on like the man's pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, it's so frustrating because I'm like, there's so many other ways that we can engage, but it's just like if you don't even open up your mind to it, like, or even how Black men and I think men in general, but Black men in particular, like if a guy likes a finger up his butt and a girl's doing it, and they're like, oh, that's gay, but I'm with a
Mm.
girl, my girl's putting her finger up my booty,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gay. Oh,
They look at it as such. And I mean, everybody got a butthole, okay? Now, how you use it is your business, okay? But, and it's like, we do have like a standard way of thinking about things because just like the guy's supposed to be the more aggressive one, the more sexual one, the quote unquote higher libido, it doesn't serve the guys with lower libidos or a guy who would like a woman to take control,
mm-hmm.
because it's seen as like, mm, this you're not being a real man. When it's just like, that's just what I like. And that doesn't make me less of a person, less of a quote unquote man, you know?
Yeah. A
Mhm.
lot of people tie their arousal and their pleasure to their worth. And like who you are as an individual and how you show up in the world is not like, that doesn't have to be connected to your arousal. Those are kind of separate things, and you get to have your pleasure and you get to show up in the world the way you want to without those being like intertwined. That doesn't define you.
Interesting. I when you're saying like tying, pleasure and things to your like self-worth, I don't know, I just, wow, am I in therapy? I just feel like, one of the reasons that I tend to be like just like sexual, or I just get a lot of satisfaction from the sexual act, because I do connect that to my self-worth. I think that, I've experienced, growing up in a household or around a specific parental figure who, I just didn't really feel cared for or valued in any kind of way. And so, just when I have sex with a person, a man specifically, like that is where self-worth actually comes from. I'm like, oh my gosh, they appreciate me. They are valuing me. Like they see me. And it's like some of the first times, or like the first experience that I feel like I had of worth, that I'm like, oh, someone actually sees me and values me, right? Just because I didn't see it like in my household, or like the fact that I grew up around like all white people, that like no one found me attractive, no one wanted to date me, like no one was interested in me. And so it wasn't until I started having sex where I was like, oh my gosh, these people want to talk to me, like they want to be around me. Oh, they think that I'm of some kind of value. And like, I definitely think that some of my self-worth is definitely tied up in that like view that people have of me from, participating in that act. Yeah, I can resonate. Wow.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that too. I think a lot of my sexual experiences were spaces where I felt the most valued and I felt the most confident because I didn't embody that myself. And that's a big indicator that there's like, a lot of self-worth wounds that other people unfortunately will never be able to fully fulfill. But I completely understand like that feeling of when I'm in the space with this person, I feel worthy.
Deep. It's okay. I'll get back in therapy for real. So I guess when we're thinking about like people being in relationships, I think, social media really has us viewing relationships a certain type of way. Like, we were definitely just talking about a couple of different, misconceptions. What do you feel like are common challenges that people face in relationships?
Common challenges. I would say like communication's a big one. And well, the lack of communication is a big one. Not expressing your boundaries, not setting boundaries, expecting somebody else to be the root of your happiness because you don't know how to make yourself happy. You're not grounded in yourself. I think comparing to other people's relationships, what you see on social media, what you think things are supposed to look like. I think there's so much like outside noise and we don't really know how to communicate. We don't really know how to talk to each other. We don't know how to have difficult conversations. We don't know how to have repair with each other. Like there's so many things that impact the way that we show up in relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I struggle personally with some conflicts. I mean, I'm like, even like just communicating, just because I'm like, if I share how I am feeling, is someone going to receive it? Or is it going to be brushed under the rug? Like it's always brushed under the rug. So I have a difficult time of bringing up my issues and my concerns because I'm like, you don't care, or the people who were supposed to care don't care. So why would anybody else care? And I think that that does get in the way of like building strong relationships for me, because it is a form of self-sabotage, because I should treat every situation like a new and different situation. But yeah, I'm just co-signing the fact that like, yeah, I can see how lack of communication, or just how people approach conflict, can definitely be a challenge to any kind of relationship, honestly. What if do you think like people's sexual like I don't know what I'm trying to say, libido, right? Like, is that a common challenge that you think that people face? Or do you feel like most people actually partner with someone that they're like sexually compatible with? Would you think that that's a common challenge where like that sexual compatibility is off?
That's so hard to say because I think it's so multifaceted. Like, your libido can be a mix of like lack of arousal. It could also be more like health things. Your connection with somebody, your compatibility, you might think you're compatible, but sometimes people are suppressing their desires because they have shame. And so they're not really showing up authentically. They're showing up the way they think they're supposed to. And so maybe y'all are not leaving fully satisfied because y'all are not being honest with yourselves, and therefore you're not being honest with each other. Sometimes there is a lack of compatibility in terms of like sexual desires. And so trying to find unique ways to please both people sometimes is a give and take, sometimes requires like unique solutions. It's really not a one size fits all. And so that's why I'm kind of saying like it really depends on the situation. And like, yeah, I think it really depends on the situation. But there are ways to address like lack of compatibility. You just have to be open to exploring it with your partner if being in relationship with that person is something that you truly desire.
I think that's a thing. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Go ahead, please. No, definitely.
to yank it. But I do think that I'm sorry, y'all, this one is crazy. That fear of communication because of fear of rejection is the thing that all of us face. Because especially with me, when I was like, okay, I really want to tell this person I would like it like this, but I'm afraid that they will reject me because this is not aligning with what he wants to do, but I want to be with him. So what's more important, you know? I don't know. It's really that fear of rejection that stops us from like really thoroughly communicating. And like, I don't know, how would you get over that personal fear of like taking that leap to jump into that communication that could possibly help? Sometimes I'm scared.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is rooted in shame, honestly. Like, a lot of it is truly just shame. And I think the first step to addressing shame is acceptance. Like, you have to like fully see and accept like, this is what I desire and I'm okay with that. And then you can start to practice, okay, how do I communicate with this? How do I communicate this with somebody? How do I share this in a way where I can get satisfaction? Sometimes though, like, some people's fantasies bring such a deep level of shame that there's different solutions. So the solution is not always necessarily communication in some instances, depending on like how taboo the fantasy is. Sometimes, so we could recommend like, instead of sharing this with somebody, because some people's fantasies all over the place. Some of them will get real wild, real scary.
Yeah, very scary, very off the table.
And sometimes fantasies will remain just that, a fantasy. And you can play it in your head while you're having sex without necessarily communicating it with somebody and still finding pleasure. Sometimes if you have a partner who is open, again, it ranges depending on what the fantasy is. If you have a partner who is open to playing with it and exploring it with you, finding safe ways to be able to get arousal and pleasure from that. So I think the first step though is like acceptance and like unconditional love for yourself. This is who I am. This is my desire. I accept it. I am worthy. And then let's figure out how to move forward.
This is why representation is like so important too. Like, obviously you can't control what the media actually like puts out there, or, you know, what you see, or what are these images, or, you know, who's talking on a mic on a podcast. But like, that's why it's really important to have those kinds of conversations so that you feel more and more comfortable to be like your authentic self, right? Like, even just like representation broadly, like women in leadership, Black women specifically, you know, in leadership, LGBTQ plus like love, you know what I'm saying? Like, once you actually start seeing it, that stigma is kind of broken down, right? So like it's so important, to keep putting, with consent, fingers in males' booties, okay? And if you see it more, then maybe you'll be okay with asking. You know what I'm saying? Like all that matters. So yeah, but shame is real. Like that shame thing is so real. I also just think that like when you think about like historically, like the study of like the women's body, right? Like and female anatomy and pleasure and sex, like I don't know what year, but I feel like in the real recent
100 years,
like they're just now like researching these things. Like we don't study women. Like we are not, getting the funding for studies to really pay attention to like women. Like, so of course, like some of these things are just like not in our forefront. Like down with the patriarchy down with the patriarchy.
Moral of the story every time.
yeah,
liberate women.
But like, because you got to remember, like women just started becoming doctors. Like, and so these studies are led by doctors and actual professionals in the field. So if you don't have a woman doctor, who's asking the right questions, or just leadership in general, it's like, okay, when we do these evidence-based studies that we go off of, like who's leading the charge? Hysteria back in the 50s was a diagnosis for women not getting off. And you know what was the cure for that? A vibrator.
Orgasm. Oh. Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why I wonder who came up with that. Okay. Again, not going down with the guys. It's just more so like that representation that you talked about is important. And that's why, unfortunately, I hate bringing up DEI. And, it's like, this is why stuff like this gets overlooked, because no one's in the room. No one's asking these questions. Like,
yeah. A lot of male researchers, like they're the ones leading a lot of these studies. And like you said, it's more so recently that we're having women leading these conversations, and they're not getting funding for the research. They're not having people back them up. And so it's like, they're trying their best, but we're just not getting the support that we need. And yeah, it's a big gap. It's a big gap.
As a professional motivator, like, because you said, the key thing that makes you different from like a therapist is like you motivate, you empower. So to address shame, like sometimes, and this is just for me, I realized I didn't need to be with that person, but I still needed to find myself and really release myself from that shame, like on my own personal journey. Like, what are some ways that you feel like somebody can like find their sexual identity in a positive way, like with and without a person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think allowing yourself to explore your body, that's really scary for a lot of people.
Some women don't know what their vaginas look like, okay?
Never touched her, never seen her, never felt her, don't even know where she is. Like,
what's the thing where they had to look at it in a mirror? Well, there was
Just
like a whole...
Yeah.
I feel like it was a play, or it was I don't know what I'm talking
vagina
about.
monologues?
The vagina monologue. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have not, no.
Girl, it's like, it's definitely an older play, but these women are literally talking about their journeys as far as their relationship with a piece of organ that they don't see with their naked eye.
Yeah. No, that's deep. That's so deep, because it's like the world excludes it. So like, why would we're very out of touch with our bodies.
I want you to finish answering the question, but I also have another side question of like, when was the first time we all started exploring our sexuality? Like, do you remember the first time that you were like, what is this sensation in my body and what can I do about it?
Yeah. So I guess to finish answering your question, it's taking some time and like actually exploring pleasure on your own, exploring your body. Try new things. If you have a partner to try new things with, just kind of like test the waters, and like maybe even preface the conversation and saying like, hey, maybe today, can we just like try X, Y, and Z. Do some research. If you're into watching porn, like watch some porn, take note of some content and things that like get you aroused. I think just kind of doing as much as you can on your own. If you're really like, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, a coach can really help you start to explore that. But yeah, I think it's just a level of like curiosity that you have to come in with and an acceptance of what comes up.
Can I ask really fast? I'm sorry. Well, okay. Actually, I'll just say it real quick. As a coach, if your answer is, okay, you should start touching your body and exploring yourself, how do you as a coach like introduce it and give them the tools? Like personally, like do you
we do it together.
Okay.
So that's the difference with sex coaches can touch your clients. And if you are in person, obviously we sign consent forms in the beginning. We have very strict, like we don't touch each other's genitals. We don't show each other genitals. We don't kiss each other. There's some really strict things in play. But you can physically, if you are in person, because you can also do this remotely, but if you can physically touch your clients and teach them like, here's how to feather light touch. Here's how to compress. Let me cuddle you. How's this feel? And like practice saying like, oh, that feels good. Oh, I don't like that area. Oh, and then like doing it to somebody else and receiving like, oh, I really like that. So it's very hands-on. Like we do it together.
I would be losing my mind, like, because I am not a physical touch person. She knows. And it just takes a certain person to ease me into that, like a literal, like a soul. Like it's I'm at this point where I'm officially bisexual. So it's just kind of like, it's like a, yeah. And it's just like, it's a soul. It's not really belonging to either gender. It's honestly an energy that is familiar to me, that feels safe to me. So
that's important. Yeah. But I mean, we don't always like, not everybody's comfortable being touched. And as a coach, I'm not going to feel comfortable touching everybody. And so you can guide them and do certain things just kind of like on yourself, or like even taking a teddy bear and just practicing. I think the whole point is just actually practicing, because again, there's only so much talk you can do. It's just like, okay, when I go out in the world, I don't know what the hell I'm about to do. So it's preparing people to be able to maneuver those spaces.
I just wanted to say like how to kind of bring this up from like a partner like experience kind of thing. I can't remember exactly where I heard it from, but you know, just to say like, oh my gosh, babe, I had this dream that you were, you know, you let me, why is this still the example? You I put my finger up your butt, you know, like, so like, what do you
you got to, okay,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, maybe just say like it's a dream and just see how they react, you know? So it's not like you are legitimately putting yourself out there as like, this is something that I personally like desire, but like just as like, oh, like I had this dream. What are your thoughts? You know, like that could be kind of a way that you like explore fantasy if you're, you know, still not comfortable being as like direct.
Yeah, like poking the bear a little bit. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Poke the bear, yeah. Wait, but for real though, not to get too much into everybody's business, but like, when did you start exploring your body? Maybe I'll go first. Yes. I don't know exactly. I feel like I was in my our new home, because I had like a home, like I remember like this, like a childhood home through like the 6th grade. And then I had another home like beginning in the 7th grade. So I feel like it had been like 7th, maybe 8th or whatever grade, right around in there. And this is probably gross, and I did not do the things that I needed to do. So don't judge me too deeply. Yes, this will live on the internet. Am I going to say it? I will. So I remember going down to the basement, and I would just use my dad's tools. Like, I would take like the back of a screwdriver, or like, you know, the handle part of like a hammer, and I would just like use that, and then I just like rinse it off, wipe it off, and I put it back in the tool.
That's actually a really good, like, it has like a good girth and a good length. That's actually not a bad idea.
No, the screwdriver part, I feel you, girl. I was like, okay, yeah, I look, she cooking with that. I've done something with something before, a flat iron, and then, but
Thank you.
yeah, you just kind of experiment with it. I definitely have done a bottle before, a Coke,
Bottle.
like a Coke bottle or something. I guess I heard the rap stars about there was like a stripper. She used to like do some trick, and I was like, is it that deep? And I'm just like, oh, maybe
I gotta
is.
see for myself.
You just get bored in the house, I guess for me, like, I think my parents have always been, what I actually really appreciate about my parents is they really they loved each other. My dad's passed away, but my dad would take pictures of my mom, and like he has like, his own collages of her. Like, he would not be too discreet about it. Unfortunately, he would have it like in his bathroom and stuff like that. And he would always have like magazines of like women. I don't know, back when magazines were like a thing, like there used to be the King, the Smooths, like Black Men magazines, like it was like on the coffee table and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, these girls are so cute. Like, I want to do like, can I do that one day? Like, is that something I want to do? Like, I literally genuinely had appreciation for women's bodies. And I think the thing that really set me off was like, I don't know if people remember Skinemax, like when they didn't have like I didn't watch hardcore porn until I was like 21. But before that, it was like the simulated sex. So you really had to, really act like you were like really into the person and like sexing and like real sex. That was on HBO. And like, I'm like watching, like they were just so like, going to sleep. And so I walk in and I'm like sitting down watching it like, okay, I shouldn't probably have done that. If you have kids, you probably should watch that. But I don't know. For me, it was just like I was coming from an understanding of sexuality from an educational standpoint and like a general appreciation of like, I know whoever I'm going to be with is going to be like all into me. And I genuinely have an appreciation for women's bodies and like couple intimacy. It's just I didn't see it in real life because I felt like maybe I set myself up because once I got into these relationships with guys, it just wasn't what I remembered. It wasn't what I like what is this, And I think that was a thing that kind of helped me realize like this is the feeling that you are looking for and it's not here. But it took me a long time to actually connect those things.
I think that's actually really powerful though, that like your parents didn't make it such a taboo thing. And like you actually had an ability to start to create your own identity with like sex and like sexual energy. And it sounds like a pretty healthy way that a lot of people, like my beginning stages of sex was like shame. Like my parents are immigrants. They're both from Haiti and very strict Christian households. So like it was just like no babies. They didn't even say the word sex. Like just no babies. And I was just closed off and like super sheltered to a lot of things. And yet I always I would accidentally walk into my parents having sex and like I would hear them and stuff. And so I was aware of sex and like sex just happened to be in all the music my older brothers would listen to. Like it was around me, and I felt a gravity toward it, but I felt a lot of shame. And so I didn't really explore anything until like 17, 18 years old when I felt like, oh, they tripping. Like, let me do a little dabble. Let me do a little 1-2. Let me just see.
Yeah, my mom, she was always naked. I didn't live with her, but like anytime that I was like visiting, I'm like, my mom was always naked. So like just, checking in, talking about like sex and the body. And my mom's a nurse. And so it's just, that was kind of common, for me. So I don't necessarily, obviously, like, men weren't actually checking for me. So I don't really think that like boys, because I was a child, they weren't checking for me. So I don't think my parents were really like concerned. Again, like it really wasn't, I wasn't doing nothing. I also wasn't allowed to really go nowhere either. So I don't really know that there was like this heightened concern that they would have. But yeah, definitely they definitely stated that they're not taking care of nobody else's babies. So I know that was like a conversation in the household for sure. I want to we're kind of on the topic, but just to broaden it a little bit. So when we're thinking about like patterns, like why do you think that sometimes we have these unhealthy patterns when it comes to like intimacy, sex, dating, relationships? Like, why do we sometimes repeat these patterns, and maybe like how can we break free from them?
No, that's a really great question. I think it could be a lot of things. I think sometimes we don't realize that we're in the midst of a pattern. We don't realize that we're repeating cycles. I think sometimes we can get in them because, as we're talking about lack of representation, we don't know what things could, I'm not gonna say should look like, but things could look like in a healthier way. And so we're just trying to figure things out with a bunch of like folks who also never learned either. So we just hurting each other. I think other times too, we might just genuinely not be ready to like break free. Like you might be aware of a certain pattern. I don't know about y'all, but there's been a couple guys in my history where I've just been stuck, and I knew I was stuck. I knew I was in an unhealthy pattern that I didn't want to be in. I was showing up in ways that I didn't want to show up, but I couldn't break free because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to face that within myself. So I think, again, as I think the common theme is awareness and acceptance, like awareness of like, this is a pattern that I'm stuck in, and like trying to understand like, where is this actually coming from? Where did I develop this? Where did I get this idea from? What like contributed to me developing this? And I think a big part too is like being honest about how you would rather show up in a relationship, and then starting to create plans, starting to understand how to set boundaries so that you can begin to break out of the cycle. But I think the whole process requires like a high level of grace and gentleness with yourself, because this is really sensitive stuff. Like I know we're talking kind of generally, but these are like real heavy emotions, and it's very, very sensitive. And so going as slow as you need to go, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. And this is not something that, I mean, for a lot of people, it's not even something that happens within a year. Like it takes a lot of gentleness with you because it's so multifaceted, right? Like generational sort of things that are coming into play in the ways that you show up. So
Yeah. We had my mom on a podcast episode called Mama's Lessons. And so, yeah, she's in a 16-year situation.
Please listen to that. It was really good.
Yes, I heard bits and pieces of it, but I'm definitely going to go back and watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it is definitely generational because, her mother was in an abusive, relationship. And so, I think all of that is definitely true that it can exist like generationally. But I'm also just thinking like, this is where community is like so important. Like this is really where like having people by you who you can share with like comes in handy, because they can bring to your awareness a pattern, right? Like, even very, this isn't like unhealthy, but it could be, Jackie was the one who made me aware that I got a thing for light skins. Okay. So like, I know that was a pattern of behavior.
I just noticed your type.
I empathize with the journey. Godspeed.
I just noticed they have something in common. I'm like, what is this type that she be having? They seem there's something similar
in here. Wait a minute.
Yes. And I'm like the opposite. Like actually I have a set of types. So if they fall into a particular category, like I'll be honest with you, if he's tall, dark skinned, like locks, that's my man. Okay. Mm-hmm. Even if they're like, kind of shorter but muscular, that's my type. If you are Hispanic, that's my type. Like I date Hispanic men, So I don't know. It's just, I would say, going with what you said, Erica, I think with the community that's important, but you also got to have that trust in them too. Knowing that, like, because I know some parents will tell you like your friends will keep you single, but the thing is like, these are the people you talk to every single day. And if you don't trust that these people have your best interests at heart, you're gonna be like, nah, y'all just jealous. Y'all want me to be out here with y'all in these streets, or what do you really know? But it's just like, as your friend, like, say if Erica is watching me go down this path again, like, my friends told me I get with controlling guys. That is one of the things that, unfortunately, when I'm in my bad stage, when I'm not doing well, or I'm in a bad relationship, the guy is normally more controlling than, I would like. And, my friends will, first it started off with like a little comment here and there, but it's like, no, Jackie, this guy is like literally telling you like you can't do this and do that. So it is very concerning, because I know your autonomy is important to you, and this is not healthy for you. So I think trust is really important when it comes down to finding that community to tell you about yourself.
Yes. I could be a little secretive sometimes.
Yes, you can. But I can see you, girl.
Come on, Scorpio.
I can see your location. I be like, hold on. I be like, hold on. She's at Sam's boat. This girl don't like no Sam. This ain't no Sam. She is not a Sam's boat girl. She is a Joey's lady. Have you been to Joey's, Joycey?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, exactly. So I'm like, she ain't. This ain't.
Can I go back to Joey's? Yes, I can. Okay. Yeah, no, but like, you're very spot on. Like, you should be sharing with your community, and they will be able to, in my opinion, like, point out some of these maybe like patterns that you are in, whether they're, healthy or unhealthy. They'll be able to be like that sounding board for you to like just reflect. I think everyone needs someone to reflect on. And if it can't be your friends, like, this is where a therapist or a sex coach really like comes in handy, right? Like, very third party that you can still share with and feel maybe safe in that space to do so. So yeah, I appreciate that. I also want to talk about like, just what are some of these like warning signs, right? Like, sometimes like, we be talking about red flags all the time, right? Like, but sometimes you can't see the flag yourself, but other people can see these flags. Like, are there early warning signs that people can look out for, like, when they're going into like an unhealthy like situation? Like, are there early warning signs for that?
For sure. I think one of the biggest signs is, I hope this makes sense, but if you can't hear yourself, if you can't trust yourself, like if you feel like you're moving in a way that you are disconnected from your intuition, like you can't hear yourself, and you're so wrapped up in somebody else, you're so wrapped up in pleasing somebody that you are putting aside your own mental health, you're putting aside your own needs. I think that's like one of the biggest indicators. I think if you don't, like you're saying, like we were just saying, moving in secrecy, moving kind of like not really telling anybody what's going on in the relationship, keeping your friends separate from things. I think too, if you don't have any personal outlets, like if you don't have any hobbies or things that are just for you, and everything is just like the relationship, me and my partner, we go together real bad. That's it. That's all tunnel vision. That can be very dangerous. Yeah, I think there's a ton of things.
Yeah. I mean, even thinking about me and my partner, we go together real bad. Like, is there, I feel like obviously yes, but like, can you tell us about like the difference between like a healthy, intimate relationship versus like one that can be like more so codependent?
Yeah. Yeah. Because a healthy relationship, you don't lose yourself in each other. You are still your own person, and you're whole and complete as you are. And then you come together and like you're still whole and complete and you're still your own person, but like you're enjoying one another and you're growing together. You're able to have healthy conversations. You're able to work through conflict in a healthy way. You're able to have support systems to rely on and just check in with. You don't feel like you have to hide anything, but you also, like you were saying, like sometimes friends can kind of get in your head. You are discerning about certain things that you share. Certain things are just for you and your partner, and I think that's healthy. But being able to like say like, oh, this is maybe something I need to check in with the girls with because I'm nervous or afraid, versus like this is something between me and my partner because like this is very intimate. and being able to have like that sort of discernment with it. I think those are all good signs of like healthy relationships. Codependent ones, you tend to not be super grounded in yourself. You lack a lot of like self-esteem and self-confidence. You tend to be very self-critical too. You're so concerned with pleasing your partner. You're so concerned with making sure that they're good. You know, you don't stand up for yourself. You don't set boundaries. Sometimes you'll even like end friendships for the sake of the approval of your partner. Yeah.
I had an ex who dated a kind of a mutual friend of ours, Jackie. So think about that. And I remember he would always say that, like, I'm better in relationship. Like, I'm the one, I need a partner. Like, I need someone who can, like, push me and hold me accountable. And, like, I don't even know how to, like, operate individually.
And that's a dangerous person. Well, it's dangerous. It's just, please. That's all I gotta say. It's just, it's like, really? You really need somebody right now? Like,
it sounds like you need your other foot to stand on, because I don't know how to help you, baby. You got to help you, because I was putting all my extra energy. It was a very exhausting relationship, because I'm like pushing someone. Like, I'm just like, please do this, do like, and like, I couldn't exist like that, because I'm like, I'm not really prioritizing me, and who else gonna prioritize me besides me? Okay, so I could not exist in that relationship. It was very exhausting, because they definitely had that view of how they saw themselves and like needed a partner to be able to like operate.
Yeah, like a very anxious attachment. That's dangerous. That's scary.
Which is so interesting too, because I'm like, where did this really come from? Because I'm like, your parents have been together for a very long time. Like, they seem to be very loving. I do know that his dad did step out once or whatever, but like, other than that, it seemed like a very like healthy relationship. I don't know. So I'm just like, where did this attachment style?
Yeah. The example of the parents being in a relationship does impact attachment, but it's also about like how they treat them too. Like, how was their childhood growing up?
Very coddled. Very
See?
coddled person.
That checks out. Yep.
Yes.
So he's like, coddle me. That's what I expect for the rest of my life.
Can I say, he said an example of, we could live in a box, a cardboard box, but as long as we had each other, that was all that mattered. And honestly, as sweet as that sounds, we got to be real here. Okay. This is very neglectful, very disgusting. Okay. That's my personal opinion of it. I feel like it's very irresponsible to bring children into a world and you can't provide for them, and you can't give them the tools that they need to, really come up into this world. Shoot, I almost got down on my parents. I'm like, well, where my shit at? Okay. Why I gotta go do all this damn work, And granted, I didn't live in a cardboard box, but this is why we need to ask these questions early before we get any deeper.
Ooh. People ain't talking, because I'd be real confused as to how y'all really gonna get married and do all these things. And it's just like, y'all didn't even have like a very simple conversation ever at any point in time, yet that's the one. I'd be so confused.
People be running off of the love vibes, and love only lasts you so long. Like, love can only take you so far.
This is where I think people are codependent. I'm just kind of like, y'all are not, I don't know. Y'all just really are in this like need, like this, I don't know, like something's missing. And again, everybody should go and talk to somebody. Everybody talk to somebody. Okay. So help us. How can people really recognize and set healthy like boundaries in relationships?
Boundaries are interesting, because I think it depends on how comfortable you already are setting boundaries. Like, if you're someone who's like really comfortable in any, not just like relationships in terms of like romantic relationships, but even in your friendships, within your family, at work, how comfortable are you creating boundaries with other people and like speaking your truth? And so recognizing like taking a pulse of where you are there, working through anything that might be preventing you. But I think a big part of it is understanding your boundaries, learning how to communicate them, and then like self-soothing yourself, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and knowing that you don't have to feel guilty about creating boundaries with the partner, because it's super healthy. It's necessary. Like, boundaries are needed in relationships in order for them to be sustainable. And also too, like, giving your partner permission and the space to express their boundaries and needs, and listening empathetically, and then also self-soothing yourself and being like, dang, like, this person's creating this boundary and like, I'm a little triggered by this and I feel some type of way. And so working through those emotions, because again, like, these are real emotions and they're very raw. And so making sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're being honest, and like that back and forth, like, just as much as you need somebody to take care of you, you need to take care of you.
Girl, because there are people who are, they have no problem setting a boundary, but it's when it's backwards to them, that's when they're the problem.
They're like,
that's
whoa,
when
whoa,
a problem.
whoa. Yeah.
And then you go, the relationship is not working. I need to find somebody that allows me to just be me. When in reality, you're not being a team player in a relationship. And this goes beyond like intimate relationships, like with a partner. It's like in friendships and work and all that stuff. It's just like, how it's like, we got to create a two-way street. And that takes a lot of vulnerability. Self-soothing is something that I'm working on. And I just learned the word boundary in therapy like literally 2-3 years ago. But I just understood that the boundary was for me. It's not for my other partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that people need to come to terms with is disappointment is inevitable in any type of relationship. You are going to be disappointed at some point. And that's why self-soothing and being able to take care of yourself is so important, because, you can discuss that disappointment and like flow through that and do what you need to do in the relationship. But like, you got to take care of yourself and like be honest, like, damn, that hurt. Damn, they like really, dang, why you got to do that? Why do you need that? Why do you need that? But like finding peace within yourself and like accepting that, people are trying to take care of themselves and like make sure that they're being able to show up in the relationship as best as they can. And like, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you can do the same when they set those boundaries.
How do you self-soothe yourself?
Ooh, I like this question. I think I've gotten really good at taking time in the shower and crying.
Girl, that is so real.
I'll sit in the shower and I will just I'll be like, Joycey, how do you feel? Like, how does this make you feel for real? And I'll be so honest and I will cry. And then typically I'll journal. I noticed that for me, like being around water and being able to wash away that energy and being able to release like via a journal is like really, it helps get it out of my body and like just out. I also have a therapist. I also have a really great support system. I try to use all the tools that I have. Yeah, those tend to work for me.
I love that.
I do too, because I spent some money. And also
retail therapy.
Retail therapy.
Eat it,
drinking, eating,
okay.
just
Comfort,
like very
yeah.
indulgent activities.
I'll go find a dick.
Girl, okay.
I'll sit on it.
And it's like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, well, I can't rely on these because these do lead to unhealthy and poor outcomes.
It's not sustainable, yeah.
At all.
Mm-hmm.
That dick will leave you.
You will get fat. You will get cancer. It's okay. I'm talking to myself. Okay.
So go with Joycey's methods, okay? Cry in the shower, journal. Okay?
No, journaling is so...
not the experts here.
Oh, yeah, we're not. Okay. But I do have this one journal that I've carried with me for like the past 5-6 years that it's not filled yet. And I go back to it and I go like, I read that and I laugh. I'm like, damn, girl, you was going through it. But it's like, dang, you really came through a lot. And I always have something to add to it. Especially when I'm really, really heightened my emotions and I can't go anywhere. Because sometimes I will sometimes go to a friend or like go to my sister or just like, I just need to vent real fast. I just got to get it out. But sometimes nobody's available, You know, I have a
Mm-hmm.
weird schedule. I'm up at like 2 a.m. at night. Who's up? You know? So it's just like you got to pull that thing out and just write. Just keep
That's
writing.
yeah, that's true self-care, like being able to be there for yourself. How do you show up for yourself? Like, and there's so many different outlets too, right? There's exercise, you can go for a walk, go touch some grass, you can go read a book. Like, well, I wouldn't necessarily, I think it's good to have things that sometimes take you out of the energy so that you can kind of get a deeper perspective, but I definitely don't want to like pitch the narrative of like deflection and distraction because you're still kind of sweeping it under the rug. And so finding ways to actually sit with your emotions, feel where they're coming up, and allow yourself to like progressively release it over time, as much time as it takes for you to like really feel like lighter, better, ready to move forward. But if the immediate aftermath is you just like doing things to try to like take some distance from like the feelings and the emotions so that you can get a deeper perspective, I think that's like a good first start.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to feel my emotions because I am that person. I go super hard. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit my mic, but go super hard fast. You know, like I'm Leo, so it's like I have to let the fire out fast, and then I'm cool. You know, but then
Hmm.
sometimes it's like after my remember, like fire burns things down, and you can't rebuild them. You know, like if in a super hard fast, I call you a fuck you, fuck ass nigga. You know, for
Mm.
somebody, they'd be like, okay, well, whatever. And then some people like, I remember you called me a fuck ass nigga in the 8th grade, and I've never fucking forgiven you. And I think I'm a fuck ass nigga every day, you know? And it's just like, I,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm.
I gotta do better in doing what you said and just kind of like sitting in it. Sit in it. How do you feel? Like I do recently now ask myself, how are you feeling right now? Like,
Mm.
how do you feel?
Get that feelings wheel, girl.
I I gotta get it and I gotta post it up here. Like I suck at it. I'm not well versed in emotions, you know, in words to place certain things because honestly, it's just like, am I angry? Am I sad? Like, what is that?
Mm.
Something
That's
deeper than that.
actually, and you can do this. This is one of the practice tools that we use in Somatica. Um, it's an emotional sort of like check in. So we will guide clients through different emotions. Like, let's tap into the emotion of anger right now. Let's think of a time where you were really, really angry. And like, I want you to express the sensations, the feelings, the places in your body where it comes up. I want to, any thoughts that are popping up, like I want you to attune to your body and like understand like, oh, this is anger. This is what anger feels like in my body. And then we'll come back and we'll kind of reflect. But I think that's real. A lot of people don't sit with their emotions. We're not really taught how to. We don't know what to do with them. But we also like don't always know. Like I'm the type of person for a long time, I felt guilty being angry. I wouldn't let myself sit in anger. Anger is a very uncomfortable place for me to be. And I would like try to like reason myself out of anger. But like learning how to be in my anger is very, very powerful because it, one, allows me to know what emotion I have, and two, allows me to actually let it flow. Emotion is supposed to be energy in motion. But like if you don't even know the emotion, you can't connect with it, how you gonna get an emotion, you know?
I think honestly, if we want to connect it back, I feel like that comes from like trauma that's like generational or even like racial. You know, when things happen to
Mm.
us, we weren't really allowed to express them. We just had to like keep it in, you know? And then we just find different outlets like singing. You know why are black people so soulful? Because I had to put whatever I had that day in that song, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Or just growing up in families where like you're not allowed to have the full range of your emotions.
at all.
Yeah.
Or
Very
you're
phony.
dismissed.
Very
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
phony. I think growing up in a Christian household for me, you just weren't allowed to like you couldn't push back, you know, don't talk back. And it's like, yeah, not talking back, but I'm literally seeing a whole hypocrisy happening right in front of me and you're literally gaslighting me and telling me this is not what's up, you know?
Mm.
Like and I can't say anything. You know, and that hurts. So, you know, I do think it's great that now we're all open to therapy or therapies or even just coaching in general. Like just talking about your feelings is more acceptable now. And it's a conversation that, Black people, we were just not having because we felt like that wasn't a thing for us. We just weren't allowed to talk about it. So this is dope. And I got to feel like, what does anger feel like to me? It's in my throat. It's in my eyes and in my throat.
Write that down, girl. I'm so serious.
Does that throat get tight? Does that throat get tight? And my eyes hurt because it's just like, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. And I really want to like cry because you're just not going to do that. Did you just do me like that?
Yeah.
We're just being extra.
Okay. If you can give one piece of advice to our audience about love, sex, relationships, what would it be?
Man, I think I would say you are always worthy of love, of connection, of pleasure. Like that's your birthright in this life, to experience love, connection, and pleasure and intimacy. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. Like you are always worthy of receiving that. You are deserving of it. And your shame will try to trick you into believing that you're not. But you are always deserving. And I guess to tag on to that, like you're not broken. Like nothing needs to be fixed inside of you. You're not a broken human being. You're just maybe hurt, you got some things to heal from, but like you are whole and complete and you are worthy to receive.
Joyce, you better go ahead. Okay. You better go ahead, girl. You are in the right field. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Please, we really appreciated, this conversation. It has been even beneficial for me. I was like, am I in therapy right now?
I got some too. Hassan, did you get a little something?
Look, I was over here almost crying. I ain't even gonna lie. I was like, oh shit. I'll make a nigga share some real tears over here like that.
A real thug tears.
I'm sure our audience is definitely going to find you really helpful too. So if they would like to connect with you, or if you have any like resources, like tell our audience how to get in touch with you or anything that you would like to share with them.
Yes. So as I mentioned, I officially finished my certification program in May. So probably mid-February, I'll start opening up practice sessions. And I will take anywhere between like 15 to 20 people. I'll provide 2 free practice sessions just so I can work up to my certification and also help some folks out. I will be opening that up on my Instagram. They didn't take away TikTok, y'all. Okay, I'll put it on my Instagram.
No. Girl, I heard they put it back up. Okay.
You put in the extension. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
For all 100 days that we going to have that extension. No, my Instagram is Joycey_Babbyy. And yeah, that's probably where I'll like be posting certain things. I'll have my website coming soon. I'm still in the midst of getting that together. But yeah.
Amazing. And, maybe a podcast relaunch, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, I will definitely, more than likely, like 97%, be bringing back my podcast. It's called She Flows. It's on all podcast streaming platforms. If you want to go back and hear some old episodes and see what kind of content I had, but we are grown and mature now. So, I'm excited to share some new things on there.
Yes. Go listen, folks, because doesn't she have a lovely voice? Like, I just like listening to you talk.
Yeah, very peaceful.
Like you just sound so
very soothing energy. Honestly, truly, like just listening to your podcast, and this is why it's probably still getting a lot of downloads today. It's pretty timeless. People can connect with their own personal journeys through spirituality, sexuality, and just like finding themselves as a young woman into a grown lady. So, girl, it's meant for you. It's here for you.
Thank you.
On your own time, though. I don't want you to rush, because my thing is people will hype you up and then you overthink it and then you self-sabotage and then you're right back where you are. Just take your time, and when it feels right, you just pull out that mic. Just what you say, just get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it was such a pleasure to be here. I love this conversation. I love all the things that you all shared. This was, I mean, I feel like I got some stuff from it too. So this was great. Thank you for having me.
Yay. So we'll link everything in our description. But yeah, everyone knows where to find us, the Just Extra podcast. You can look us up on YouTube, maybe TikTok, and Instagram. We are Just Extra _ podcast. You can follow Jackie at all things JAY. You can follow me, Erica _ stay ready, and Hassan at Mr. DOT Forbes. All right. And we'll see you all on the next episode.
Bye.
We're just being extra.